A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. I should start with an apology. We're starting almost 25 minutes after 10 o'clock. We have had some delays and I'll be explaining exactly why we're having we have had part of this delay. My name is Charles Mongu Shampagi. Tonight, we will continue a discussion we started last Sunday on what some people now are calling the defiance of the police and in particular its chief, Kayihura, to court summons over his private criminal prosecution, personal criminal prosecution for beating up supporters of Dr. Kizza Besigye, for which he was supposed to appear in court on Wednesday. For the first time, actually not for the first time, but we saw a mob of supporters of General Kayihura siege Makindye Magistrates Court, which is in a way some kind of poetic justice or some irony that the man who has been trying to block demonstrations has to rely on a demonstration of his supporters to botch a scheduled court appearance. The police insists that he hasn't been summoned up to now. Erasmus Twaruka, who we had here I was seated where Ivan is seated, last Sunday, told us the police had not received the summons and General Kayihura had not received the summons. He issued a statement on 11th August to insist that the summons had not been delivered. Paul Namaye also released another statement to say Kayihura had not been summoned. But that is beside the point. Kayihura is facing both a legal court and a court of public opinion. How does he go out of this? Let me introduce, at the extreme end here, Dr. Jude Kagoro. Very nice to have you. Good. You did your PhD thesis on policing, security? Police?
Not really.
Not really.
Militarization.
Militarization.
Yes.
But you're focusing a bit on the police, part of the research.
Now I'm actually doing research on the police.
You're doing research on the
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Kagoro is, are you teaching now? Are you still a student?
No, I'm not a student.
You're
a teacher.
He's teaching at Bremen University in Germany. Very nice to have you. Ivan Okuda making a return after some weeks of absence. Ivan Okuda is a law student at Makerere University and a journalist working with the Daily Monitor. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. I'm profoundly humbled.
You did
Is he among those driving the strike? I'm teaching staff.
No, the students haven't joined yet. I think they have been threatening.
But the students have given, have stamped their support for the...
Yes, they've been threatening to join, and they are complaining that Makerere is delaying, and that delay might have a cost.
A baptism of fire for the First Lady.
Yes.
In the Ministry of Education.
But Ivan wrote a very interesting piece which was run in the Saturday Monitor about the troubles in which General Kayihura finds himself in. Next to me is an empty chair. I'll introduce the guest. If you are anywhere or you know where Colonel Shaban Bantariza is, the deputy director at the Uganda Government Media Center, please tell him to jump on the board and get into the studio. But he's trying to get his way into studio and he's been delaying us for some time. But I hope he'll be here any time from now. And of course, my colleague Onapito Ekomoloit, who's Corporate Affairs Director of Nile Breweries, SAB Mela. Very nice to have you. General Kayihura today has been head of the police for almost 11 years. He was appointed in November 2005. Jude, you've been watching the drama around the beating of Kizza Besigye supporters, the internal process to punish policemen who are now alleged to have exceeded their orders, the attempt at private prosecution of General Kayihura and 7 other policemen. To set the record straight, which hasn't been coming out in the media, for all the time we've been discussing this story, the case against Kayihura is not brought by those witnesses. It is brought by what is known as a network of private legal private lawyers.
Yes.
Yes, network of private lawyers, NetPil, is the one that, and there are about 4 lawyers in NetPil that raised this case, found those witnesses, though some of them appear to have dropped off. What do you make of this?
Well, these are interesting times. And if you allow me, I would like to go a little bit beyond
Please go ahead.
the event, the court event, and what has been transpiring in the last few days. Because for me, what I'm seeing is that to understand what happened, you have to put some horizontal and vertical layers. That is, put layers above, beneath, and besides the police, because you cannot interpret what transpired on was it
on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, without interpreting the social field within which police is placed, where, because you have to go beyond and look at the social interactions, transactions, and events within which the police operates. Because the police is not, if you look at it, it's not really, you can't look at it in isolation. For me, I think this is a political struggle that extends way beyond the police. So we have intense political contest, and the so-called court summons, I think, some sort of cover-up of something else. That is my own interpretation.
Is it about the police as an institution, or is it about General Kayihura who heads this institution?
No, it's about,
because there's been that debate. There are in total 8 officers,
yes,
of the Uganda police force who are supposed to appear, but you only hear one name, Kale Kayihura.
That is obvious.
He's a military general.
Yes.
He's the head of the police, and the discussion is not actually about the culpability of the other officers summoned. It is about, and yet they are the field people. They are the ones who execute. It's about General Kayihura.
Yeah.
So how do you place that into your vertical, horizontal?
Yeah, I mean that is really obvious. Of course, it's the top dog, I may say, in this game that is being played, and police here is being pushed against the wall as the punching bag of the political struggle that has been ongoing for quite some time, because it's quite easy to use police to gain political mileage. It's quite easy to push them into a certain corner, because this is an interface bureaucracy that interfaces directly with the people, and it's almost everywhere.
Ivan, do you agree with this analysis? Is it about the police as an institution, or has it now, actually over the last, the space of the last 1 week, has it narrowed down to the individual, General Kayihura?
Allow me respectfully disagree with the doctor. When he says the police is used as a punching bag and is being dragged into a political struggle, I think the police has fundamentally been positioned, or has positioned itself, especially since the appointment of General Kale Kayihura in 2005, November, as part of the equation of that political struggle. And what we are seeing is simply the effects of that inclusion of the police as part of the NRM political structure. And what is playing out in layman language is simply impunity on the part of the Inspector General of Police. The president of this country, for all his flaws, has time and again subjected himself to processes of law. You recall in the Julia September Commission on the junk helicopters, the president gave audience to that commission. There were journalists, and he was interrogated and he gave evidence. 2001, 2006 presidential election petition, Kizza versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Electoral Commission. The president did subject himself to the process of law. The case of the NRM rebel MPs, the president did so an affidavit. In the recent case, Amama Mavas versus Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Electoral Commission and others, the president, in full view of cameras, allowed to be served by Severino Shinobusinje and Micah Kampurira. So the president, the fountain of honor, has time and again subjected himself to processes of law. What General Kale Kayihura is doing is simply the intoxication that comes with unlimited power, whether perceived or real. And it's outright outplay of impunity.
The statement by Erasmus Twaruhuka and what they've been saying. He said it on the show here. I don't know why people didn't pick it up from the show last Sunday. And then he's issued a statement to say he's never been summoned.
I did write an article in the Saturday Monitor just yesterday, in where just the title of the story was Kayihura served summons. If you read the Magistrates Court Act, specifically from section 45 to section 48, you can extrapolate it to section 50 and 51. It clearly outlines the process of serving summons. One, under section 45 and the subsequent sections, one can be served summons personally, which is the most voted for
recommended.
Option, yes, recommended within the Act. And the person served has to sign at the back of the summons.
Acknowledgement.
To acknowledge the receipt. If that is not possible, that person can be served through their servant or employee, in this case possibly one of Kayihura's assistants, who also has to sign and acknowledge the receipt at the back of the summons. Number 3, the framers of the law did envisage a situation where the person may not be accessible to receive the summons, and provided for a fixation of those summons in a conspicuous part of the house or homestead, and that is as good as service done. Number 4, a person being an employee of the government of Uganda or the East African community can be served through their superior. In this case, the Minister of Internal Affairs, who is also under the Police Act, the chairperson of the police authority that oversees the Uganda Police Force. So I did contact Asuman Basalirwa and Mr.
He's one of the lawyers?
Yes, one of the lawyers involved in this process, and asked them which of these 4 options provided in the Magistrates Court Act did you explore? And they told me what they did was send a clerk to Chibuye, and
Chibuye is where the other police officers,
specifically Andrew Kagwa,
yes,
who declined to be served and claimed he could only be served through his boss. So the clerk runs to Naguru Police Headquarters, specifically to General Kayihura's office, and he's told all court documents in the Uganda Police Force system are received through the court registry. Through the registry.
Actually, all documents going to the police headquarters are received through the registry.
The registry.
Yes.
So the clerk slopes down to the registry and finds a lady who accepts to sign in the delivery book, which has been circulating in the
social media.
WhatsApp, social media platforms, but declines to sign at the back of the summons. Of course, I had almost 1 hour of conversation with the 2 lawyers on phone, until one of them agreed that if you're to indeed follow the technicalities in the letter of the law, you can agree that Kayihura has not been served. But standard procedure and standard established practice in serving police officers is such that the summons are taken to the registry. An acknowledgement of service at the registry is as good as
receipt, as signing at the back.
Yes, at the back.
Because the East African is running a story.
Yes.
Some neighbors of General Kayihura at his residence in Muyenga noticed that the kind of security he has around his residence has kind of been enhanced. So if you can't have the opportunity to serve a military general, to pin on his wall or his gate or even access his home, you go to his office and you can't find him, and you're told the procedure here is take to
the registry.
And you take to the registry. The registry person who's supposed to receive acknowledges receipt, but in the delivery book, not by signing
at the back of the summons.
Technically, you have served, haven't you?
Yes, but of course,
I need to hold it there for a moment. Bring in Honor briefly, because we need to take a break to make sure that this chair has someone sitting in it. Honor, this whole political, some Nigerian calls it hoji-poji. this drama.
Well, Charles, it's good you are calling it politics. Almost taking on from Jude's point of view. I think this whole spectacle is a continuation of the election process.
Exactly.
And the subsequent dispute about that election.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the players, they're almost the same, you know? And that is actually what is making life very hard for the court. I had the sentiments of the Chief Justice. You can almost sympathize with him. But the court is caught in the crossfire of political actors. And you can see that General Kayihura must be having people who are listening to him and sympathize with him as a victim of political machinations by Kizza Besigye and his team, represented by people like the Lord Mayor and other Asuman Basalirwa. These are the same people who are active in the petition of Mama Mbabazi as lawyers. So it's very easy for the legal argument be lost. I mean, the fact that people were tortured is now, unfortunately, has gotten lost. And I can tell you, General Kayihura definitely has his side, which is saying this is a political fight.
Or maybe he's deliberately also trying to drive it to that interpretation that this is politics, beyond the legal.
He will drive it and will find fertile ground for his message to land. I think the challenge now for people like Ivan who want to see the law take its course is how can the political actors step out of this and leave the lawyers and to play.
Okay.
And it looks very hard for the political actors.
I'm going to cut you there. Let's explore this a little bit more in detail. We need to take the break and fill this chair. I know he's been watching a bit of the last segment, but I spoke to one of the lawyers who is part of NetPeel, and they're actually also a little bit disappointed that the politicians are trying to hijack a genuine effort to bring the police leadership to account. And they say the likes of Dr. Besigye, the likes of Erias Lukwago, the likes of Osman Basaligo are jumping onto the case, which, if you look, you have Nicholas Opio, you have Daniel Waliemera, you have Mbazira, and I think another lawyer. I'll remember the name of the fourth lawyer. The original initiators of the case and the ones supposed to be driving it. Now the others have joined in the case, and politics seems to be taking over.
But it's of politics.
Gentlemen, can we take a quick break so that we can have someone sit here? He might have better answers for us since he speaks for government. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing, is it defiance by the police failing to get senior police officers, including the chief of the police force, General Kayihura, to appear before court? We've had protests, not so protests from Parliament, because Parliament was invaded on Tuesday by supporters of General Kayihura who wanted to deliver a petition. On Wednesday, court was mobbed and no activity could take place. We've been joined by Colonel Shaban Bantariza. He's the Deputy Executive Director at the Uganda Government Media Center. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
And it's people like you who should be having these police outriders, sirens clearing the way for you.
Yeah, we haven't reached there yet. When we get there, you will know.
We'll find people are not yet.
We are not yet there.
How do you, as government, explain what is clearly an act of defiance by your chief of police, who's supposed to be the #1 enforcer of the law?
You want the position of government. I don't think I know or have the position of government on this matter because of various reasons, including those who have gone to court to petition have gone there to petition General Kayihura, who also is the IGP. Now, when such a matter takes that direction at that level, the government would not wish to come in immediately because then it would be interpreted as peddling influence in the matter that should be handled by the parties to the legal issues. So if they go stepped in, what would government be doing?
I'm wondering where you're going with this, because your Minister of Internal Affairs has General Jeje Odong.
Yes.
Dictor Simo of the East African spoke to him, and he said he's not yet been fully briefed. But the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Obiga Kania, spoke in defense of General Kayihura and the police. Prime Minister Dr. Rakana Lugunda spoke on the floor of Parliament.
That one I saw what he said. I saw him and I know what he said.
He has spoken. And it looks like the executive arm of government has decided to support General Kayihura's defiance. And then, just to add, the Director of Public Prosecutions sent an officer to Makindye Court trying to take over the case. So what is it you're saying that you're avoiding talking about?
The point here is, because if I refer, for example, to what the Prime Minister said, the Prime Minister said, whatever is going on, General Kare has done a good job, right? Although I saw Miriam Matembe the other day saying that the Prime Minister said General Kare did a good job. That's different from has done a good job, because he has been performing for a long time, since 2005 to date. Now, many things he has handled them to the satisfaction of government of the country. Now, there may be other failings, which even may not even be his personal problems, because first of all, people who are summoning General Kare to court, and they are summoning him with his subordinates, they are going to have, in my view, I am not a lawyer, but they are going to have a problem, because the police are accused of using excessive force. They are accused of being brutal. Now, the police in their operations, they have three principles on the question of use of force. Principle number one is professionalism in your operations as an individual and as a group. Principle two is you must exercise the force undiscriminatively. If you two are in the same circumstance, for example, I am effecting arrest. Proportionate. Yes. But no, proportionate is different. If I am effecting an arrest, the two of you, I want to arrest you now for whatever. You resist. He doesn't. The amount of force applied to both of you is not equal, right? You may lift him or may guide him into a car, but you may have to lift you. So there's that principle is saying, don't apply force discriminatively in the same circumstance. Then the third principle is accountability. That whatever amount of force you use, you are finally accountable as an individual. Yes. Because before you went for an operation... And these lawyers are trying to hold Kayihura accountable as an individual. Before these people went for an operation, in the forces, before you send people out for an operation, you write out orders. You write them out. Now, in case an offense has been committed by the operatives, when you write them out, by the way, then the commander who is in charge of the group that's going to operate, he also briefs the ordinary soldiers or constables. So in that briefing, plus their professional training, if anybody commits an offense, then he's personally liable. Okay. Now here, when you want to bring in General Kare to be personally liable, you want him to be personally liable for exactly what? In that operation. Let me go back to the question. I know Ivan and the other team members want to come in. Let me go back to the question. Why are you encouraging what now comes off as impunity or defiance? You see, that's whether he's being prosecuted in his private capacity or in his official capacity, as government, he still represents government. Why aren't you telling him this is the way to act, and we're encouraging him the Chief Justice has protested the rape, the second or third rape of the temple of justice, the court. Not by the demonstration, no, by his supporters the other day. The parliament has cried out, and you are still saying either we don't know or we are waiting, we are trying to see where this thing is headed. Seriously? General Kare is not under 18 in order for government to tell him go and appear in court. He's an IGP, and the police is in charge of law and order. To assume that General Kare does not know the implications of the law that requires him to do certain things, so that the government now has got to take a position and say go or don't go, is not right. What does Standing Order number 8 or Public Standing Orders 2010 say? No, I haven't read it. It says if you are facing the criminal prosecution, yes, you either step aside voluntarily or you are sent on interdiction to give way to investigation. Of course, why aren't you invoking those? First of all, he will not interdict himself. Okay, he can be interdicted by his boss. Yes, but now what we all hear from him and from those who work for him is that he has not. I saw you were discussing that matter a few minutes ago. He has not been served with the summons, right, for him to appear in court. Now, whether that is true, whether that is not true, time is the best teacher to tell us whether it was true or not. But for now, you cannot say you must appear in court when the man says appear in court on what summons, to do what? As a witness? Let me allow other people to come in. Let me allow other people to come in, because I am wondering at what stage supervisors of an officer of government stand up and say, these things that are all over the place, can you give us an explanation? Can you account? Where is it? Because I think you don't want this. The media center was supposed to coordinate government communication and make sure that we have a good image as a country.
internal and externally.
And I will do it here.
And these things have been tarnishing the country's name and image all over, and everybody seems to be, you seem to be comfortable with it. You wanted to come in.
Yes, Charles. I listened patiently to Afande Shaban Batariza. And first, he was delving into the aspects of whether Kayihura can be held personally liable and vicariously liable and all these other things. But you see, the bit about the law is that it's not arbitrariness. It's not humor. It's ruled by the latent spirit of established statutory instruments that are in place. The law that the lawyers and the victims of the brutality that was meted by the police force officers are quoting and proceeding under is the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act, which is possibly one of the finest laws that we have in as far as it expands the scope of responsibility to the extent that if you recommend, support, aid, abet, and so many other things, the commission of acts of torture, you can be held liable and you're liable to 7 years in jail or 168 currency points, which is about times 20,000 shillings. So Shaban should leave matters of the law to the court and not come and try to try and make legal arguments. It's not politics. This is, and it's not humor. It's not drama. It is. It's the law. So let's leave the process of the law.
Unfortunately, this is not really a court.
It's not a court.
Yeah. You know, I said this earlier just for the sake of emphasis. The same argument which are being raised against General Kayihura were being raised before the elections, when he was being accused of mobilizing.
Not torture.
Just what was crime preventers were being accused of torturing political opponents of the government. So this argument is going on, and I'm not surprised as Shaban is saying that the government really does not see the argument that Kayihura's opponents or critics are making. They see him as somebody who is doing his work, and those who are opposing or are trying to take him to court are simply opposed to government.
Just before I go to Jude, how do you account for the political damage? Because
from whose point of view?
For government, for government, for President Yoweri Museveni, for the police force, there is the legal debate, but there is also some significant political damage. The thing is, especially the ride on the court by that mob.
Yeah, I mean, from a media point of view, or from what you may say, independent point of view, it may appear like government's in shambles in terms of image, but I don't think government really sees it that way. They think this is a continuation of the unfair criticism General Kayihura has faced, and in the course of doing his work, is being instigated by the opposition. And the people who went to court, I'm sure they are saying they are responding to the unfairness towards Kayihura.
But you believe it coming?
Yeah, Charles, you know, I understand where my brother is coming from, because he's the legal mind. For him, he's talking about the legalities, whatever is going on. But to me, I think that is the surface of what is going on. This is a decoy, if I may use military terminology. That's not the main issue. It's not the main issue.
What is the
main issue? Is the political contestations. The main issue is some people who lost elections want to account. Some form of accountability. They are appealing to their supporters that we're still around. We have not abandoned you. The struggle is still going on.
Jude,
and
just wait a moment.
I'm still
just
going
wait a moment.
Yes.
If the question, the subject under discussion, the anchor on which all this argument is based, is that people were brutalized. The police internally has acknowledged that some officers might have exceeded their orders. That's why they have up to 9 officers, 8 officers and a crime preventer, facing an internal police disciplinary process. What you are seeing is the flip side that is being taken up by private prosecutors, private lawyers, trying to bring the highest authority in the police to account. So how do you say this is just a play out of politics when people have
but to what end? To what end is the General Kale being dragged in? Because what I know is well, I've been researching in the police for years as an ethnographer. And I can tell you that the police management was really touched of what was happening. The tactical errors that played out on the 12th and the 13th of July this year. And then what you're forgetting is that when all these things happened, General Kali himself went to Mbarara and oversaw one of the most successful operations. You saw how police officers moved in proper formations, in their gears. You saw how they restrained themselves. There was a lot of violence against the police in Mbarara. We saw it on television. We saw stones being thrown at police officers. Was this on the 15th? 15th of July?
Yes, in
Mbarara, being stoned. And honestly speaking, if you go to
Who
many
was
places,
stoning the police officers?
supporters of, I don't know if they're supporters of...
No, they were supporters of Besigye because...
How would you know that they are supporters
That's
of
what
They
I'm saying.
said it themselves. Yes, there's no doubt. They said that earlier.
But you see,
came at the height of criticism.
yes, but
people holding stones and
Charles.
saying, I'm a supporter of Besigye and I'm stoning
No,
the
no, no, no.
Charles.
They had belonged to him to welcome him from prison.
Yes.
Okay? And it was clearly announced like that. And those are the people.
yes, and Charles,
What Charles is trying to imply there is a theory that this was staged by the police.
That's all. It was
So-
spontaneous.
yes, so,
The
and
erroneous one that it is spontaneous. It was not.
just to continue, you see, now the media has not discussed that particular operation.
It hasn't.
Very successful operation
Yes.
that he himself oversaw. And I will tell you,
Jude, is it important?
and I'll tell you one thing, Charles, that when mistakes were made on the 12th and the 13th, there were several meetings that were held because I'm a researcher. I attended some of these meetings where General Kale was completely, touched about what was happening.
Was
and he didn't understand.
devastated.
Yes, devastated, I might say, because he didn't understand why all these errors were made.
Okay.
And he wanted to
Now,
understand why the
You're
errors
a
were made.
researcher, Jude.
Yes.
General Kayihura is not, we can't discuss the police, General Kayihura, and the opposition, especially the political opposition, from incidents of the last 2 weeks for the last 2 months. You need to stretch it back to almost 11 years ago.
That's
2005.
why it started.
Yes, 11 years ago. And some people, critics of Kayihura, will tell you his rise in the police force has been synchronized almost, or side by side, with his attempts to suppress political opposition, where Honor started from and said, you see, Kayihura has been this, he's delivered for the president, some people will say. He's tried to suppress the opposition,
Yes,
and
actually,
that the beatings
Charles.
the other day were only one incident that came after so many in between.
Charles, I will say that he has not delivered for the president, he has delivered for the country. Because when you go into the police and see the quality of the quality of the intellectual quality of police officers that have been attracted into the force.
The president is a fountain of honor
Yes.
for the country.
Yeah, I may say yes, he has served the
the
president, but he has also served Uganda. He has transformed the police force. That's why we're even debating it today. Because it was something that you don't even debate about.
It's only today that the police is closer to the people,
Yes.
where you find the police
And,
post order in every
yes.
other disturbed place
And on top of
than
that,
before.
for the last 10 or so years, by the way, I've been carrying out research and with other colleagues who have also done research. You know, in Africa in general, many people tend to stay away from the police. In Uganda, it's very interesting that people go to the police. They even try to attract the police next to them. You see people using their own resources to bring police closer to them, building police stations, and then police coming to occupy those
Yes,
police stations.
yes.
And you see massive, if you go to any police station, Charles, you see massive numbers in those police stations.
Yeah.
So the gap, the social gap between the police and the ordinary citizens of Uganda has fundamentally
We'll
improved.
interrogate that in a bit, but let's have...
what Jude is saying, that's why even there are so many civilians at the court.
Eh?
Because they're supporting the police.
let's have...
Absolutely.
let's have
Very, very quickly, one, Dr. Kagoro finds it strange that the media does not discuss in much detail the Mbarara rally where Dr.
The successful rally.
the successful rally, as Banteras wants to call it. It's not strange. You know, in the media they say when a dog bites a man, it doesn't make news, but when a man bites a dog, it makes news. There's nothing strange about that because it is the characteristic of the police force under the leadership of General Kayihura to have those public relations stunts, especially after so much criticism has come down the belly. The next rally will most certainly be
the police will restrain itself.
Will be more civil and civilized, which should be the standard way of doing things. But they only do that after so much fire has been sent down the belly. So that doesn't make news. But number two, Jude makes a very good point. And indeed, if you look at the growth of police under General Katuma Wamala as the IGP, he had just about 18,000 policemen. Kayihura now has about 60,000. The budget of police has grown astronomically from 2008 and 2009 from about 126 billion. You're now talking about 500 billion shillings. That is fine, but we need to ask a very important question. To what end? That has also, the growth in the police budget and the numbers has also been more in tandem with the positioning of the police as a crutch of a political establishment that does not derive legitimacy and credibility from popularity, but rather from the use of force, suppression, and repression.
Is that so?
And that is how General Kayihura has positioned himself and the police.
Is that so?
And that has affected professionalism, that has affected the heart of the police force. If you speak to senior security officers in this country, and Shaban will tell you this possibly off air, they acknowledge the breaking of the heart of the police force of this country with the astronomical growth in budget.
Let me just add one thing to what you said. There is the larger police force. Professional, well-meaning individuals who wake up every day, go to bed late or don't go to bed, trying to do their job. There is the public face of the police, which is the one that suppresses political expression or seems to be serving a political function. And I think people have been trying to make a distinction between the two, because if you find traffic officers trying to maintain traffic on the road, you find other sections of the police, they're hurting internally because of the riot control section of the police, which is commanded by the same person. How do you make the distinction?
Before I entered here, I saw Comrade Kagoro discussing the environment under which policing now is being done. Some people tend to assume that this police we have are policing in ordinary times. They are not. Why?
What is extraordinary?
What is extraordinary is,
yes,
having entered into a political contestation period from around about October last year to February, and we should have really ended the contestations, okay? And if there were any contestations, should have gone into the courts of law. Those contestations have remained on the street. Now, when police is policing political interests, antagonistic political interests, it's very difficult for those antagonistic political interests to interpret that police as neutral, as pro people. Because if there's somebody who is saying, under whatever circumstances, I will continue with my defiance campaign, and the defiance campaign is carrying it out with citizens of Uganda, and then there's a law which says, all right, even if you want to organize a defiance campaign or a defiance rally, please involve us to ensure that those who are not part of you are not affected negatively by your rally. And for them, they don't care. Somebody simply comes out of home and says, here we are, we move. Okay. And then the police is not ready. So when the police incentive gets in, and some of the police officers make mistakes, when you are going to judge them, you need to judge them. They are not doing ordinary policing.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Let's take this back a little bit. Are you surprised, therefore, that the group that went in support of General Kayihura on Tuesday and on Wednesday, 1 had police permission, 2 had police protection, 3 disrupted normal life for other people, and that you're not talking about?
And that has not, disrupting normal life has not happened at Machindi last week on Wednesday alone. It has happened before in different places by different rallies of different people.
But these went in support of the police chief?
Yes, you see.
These had the police not blocking them. this particular group.
Absolutely. Just like the police did not block those in Mbarara, did not block those in Kabari.
But it
as I was telling you,
and
there are very many other rallies or other assemblies that the police has restrained themselves from really dispersing. All right, and they try
in the last 2 months.
And when they have
no, in the last 2 months.
Life has not started in the last 2 months.
Between the release of Besigye on 12th July and today, police has restrained itself. Before that, we said the same.
Any text without a context is a pretext. You must contain together from October to today. Because
I want you to any text without
context is the pretext.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Take it back to 2005. Draw your context from 2005. 2007, we see the introduction of what was known as the Kiboko Squad.
Introduction by who?
By the police. As a journalist, men came out of the central police station carrying sticks and started beating people around the Constitution Square. That's a fact. You see what was called the introduction of what was termed the Black Mamba. November 16th, 2005. You come in 2007, you have statutory instrument number 53 that restricted public assembly and gatherings. 2009, you have the Public Order Management Act restricting the right to assemble, the right to demonstrate. And all this applying to either activists in civil society who are seen to be challenging government or critical to government, this applying to the political opposition. So your context, your text without context becoming pretext, should be looked at from that
the context here.
Yes.
The context that has brought us to last Wednesday, 13th of this month, okay, is the context. Is the context of people who want to continue political contestation, whether it is a political rally time or not. Because there's time for everything. Deuteronomy tells us that. You cannot be in politics, in campaigns, or throughout.
What is unconstitutional or criminal about that?
Forget
it doesn't violate any law to continue with political contestation. It's not illegal.
You see,
is it illegal?
You see, for me to come here and say it's legal or not illegal, or even quote a section of the law, doesn't matter.
There is nothing unconstitutional about it, Shaban.
The Constitution does not regulate our individual daily life.
It doesn't make it a criminal for somebody to politically contest.
It doesn't. Honor, come in. Honor.
But I think what should also not be lost in the context is that there is a political contestation arising out of the election. But I think this demonstration at the courts and even other parts of the country was also bring an element of kind of sharing of spoils by the victor. I mean, I guess by the NRM, especially around the security. Because some of the supporters of General Kayihura were throwing their innuendos, insinuations about some people in government who are involved in this, who are not coming out, some ministers, somewhat. So I think there's also that element of politics within the government itself, where General Kayihura is seen to be under attack by some people. So I guess maybe Shaban.
No, they've been attacking.
Which is true.
Honor, let me just ask one question before. Because Shaban wants to take us, Colonel Shaban wants to take us to a discussion that narrows to the last 1 month.
On the contrary.
Yes. Now, just a moment. Would it be to stretch analysis to say that the reason we are having this debate today, and Kayihura finds himself where he is because he has focused his policing largely on as a political policing since he was appointed 11 years ago?
Well, for me, I would say it's not because he has focused. I guess the government decided on that approach. They thought after the Arab Spring, where Colonel Gaddafi was a close ally of this country, fell victim. And I mean, I think the government became very alert to the fact that you needed to take charge of the streets and not take any chances. You didn't need a Tahrir Square here. So I'm not surprised that strategy was taken.
There was that attempt to create a Benghazi in
so it has worked. This is not by...
But Charles, also, it's important, especially for our viewers, not to be misled by Shaban. And I saw Dr. Jod pushing this
No,
point
we are not
further.
here as misleaders.
That
We are making an argument in debate.
Let him make his point why he thinks you're trying to mislead.
But you can't allow him to call us misleaders.
No, no, you have your
that
chance to
people
respond.
that you see this is a continuation of the election. There are people who are interested in political contestation. There is nothing unconstitutional, nothing illegal about political contestation as long as it is not in breach of any law of the land. Because we're making it appear criminal for somebody to continue the political contestation. What we should be discussing is how does police handle that contestation? The challenge is police is handling the contestation and taking sides and positioning itself as a walking stick of the NRM. And that is precisely the cause of the anarchy that we see.
Let me have Jude respond to that and Shaban, and then we'll take a break. Yes, Jude.
Yeah, I don't know how you
Is that a fair, assessment of the situation we find ourselves in?
Well, you see, as they say, truth is multiple in nature. It's never singular.
We're in a post-truth age.
Yes, and from what my brother is saying, no, we are not. I wouldn't really focus on the so-called truth. That's what he's trying to debate. I would say, how is that truth constructed? How is that truth maintained? Okay, so I don't know how we come to that conclusion or that inference that now the police is standing on one side and protecting.
I thought that's been the argument, because
Yes.
some people have been saying, how do you quickly process an approval letter for a group of demonstrators supporting General Kayihura when you have been telling everyone else who has tried to demonstrate, no, you can't demonstrate on this day.
So
you can't demonstrate, you can't move through this street, you can't do this. Trying to fail
Yes,
an attempt.
Charles,
And when you contextualize POMA and statutory instrument number 53, if you put those into context,
But
you'd end up with an argument that says the reason this is a political fight, as some people have called it, is simply because General Kayihura, under his leadership, the police has taken a partisan stance. And his opponents, now opponents from the political perspective, are trying to fight back, taking advantage of where the police finds itself now.
but let's try to analyze who presents that kind of argument. Who is this that is presenting that kind
Who
of
is it?
argument? I don't know. I'm asking you.
No,
Because
you are the researcher. You are the researcher, and you are raising the question.
No,
you
you are
have a
presenting.
hypothesis.
No, you are presenting it because I don't want to
I've
get
presented
it.
argument.
Yes.
Maybe
So
I
who
can-
is
I can-
presenting that argument? And
We
then
want to split hairs and try to
Those-
prove if the Pope is Catholic. Okay, let's try and prove the Pope is Catholic. One, the IGP of this country and senior members of the police force, just like other security agencies, actively participate in political processes of the NRM. We saw that with elections.
But it is the
We
same.
do say on this show, Charles, how senior officers of the army were deployed in different parts of the country in the lead up to the election. That's what
And
that's
that's
what- that's what-
Shaban, he said they were- they were
And that's where they are coming from.
The president,
That's the problem we have now.
The president has time and time again lauded the Inspector General of Police of this country as a good cadre of the NRM.
Yeah, but
The Inspector General of Police of this country has not shied to show his affection for the president of this country and to essentially participate in the political processes.
He's obliged by law. He's obliged by law.
By the way,
Gentlemen,
Yes.
Obliged by law,
Yes.
Hold it there.
obliged by law
But
to
he-
maintain
He's
law and order
also no.
regardless
His-
of political
His
lines.
oath of allegiance says that I will protect the president in his person. You go and read it is part of the military act 2005.
We're not debating that.
there is a
We're
difference.
debating taking sides against
Shaban,
No, you are saying,
opponents of the
you are saying he
president.
shouldn't show affection to the president. He must do
there
that.
is a difference
but,
between
yes.
protecting the president
Yes.
and promoting the political interests of the president.
Now, let me help you to understand this.
Yes.
What is government? Government is the superintendent of the state, right?
Yes.
Now, the police, with the other pillars of the state, are part of that state being superintended by government. Government is naturally political,
Yes.
all right?
There's no dispute about that.
About that.
Yes.
So when the government now says, we have gone into an election, we have got an election season, we have finished it, and that's according to the law, by the way, okay? Now, after we have finished this one and put down the contestation, and somebody says, I have supporters, and me, with my supporters, we shall continue on the streets with or without your permission. No, don't say no. Don't say no.
No. There is no dispute about that.
Yes.
I am wondering what argument you're trying to make.
The point I'm making is
the question of partisanship.
This said,
The question of partisanship.
yes.
And the question of serving by the oath an officer takes
partisan
are two different things.
Partisan is your interpretation, because what do you expect the police to do if there is a partisan rally taking place and also disrupting others who are not part and parcel of their activities?
The police doesn't get into the partisan issues. It stands and protects everybody.
How do you separate a police officer who has intervened in a political rally for political motives and stopped that rally or stopped that crowd? Okay, according to you, he therefore becomes partisan.
Thank you. Why is the police trying the other 9 officers, the other 8 officers
No.
the civilians? Why is it trying them under the police disciplinary code?
Because as I told you here, that under the principles of use of force in the police, there's the principle of accountability as an individual. If you overgo your mandate, if you overuse or misuse the power given to you to use against people.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
is there a possibility?
Is that partisan?
Is there a possibility that you can over apply yourself, and that gets interpreted in a partisan way?
How? What is partisan about that?
We need to take a
it
break.
cannot be.
We need to take a break. No. Hold it, Honor. We need to take a break.
It can't be.
We'll come back. We'll continue with this discussion. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This last segment of the Fourth Estate. It's more heated than we have seen because now we no longer have tear gas. We're using sticks, and people call them hiding sticks.
And they are allowed by the law. They are allowed, the sticks are prescribed by the law in the Police Act.
We'll come back and talk about the siege at the High Court and the attempt to lock the magistrate in, and we'll see how you defend it. But
no, my job is not to defend it, but to explain it. Yes, my job is not to defend what you.
I am choosing my words carefully.
Yes, you are right, and I'm also choosing mine. I will explain, not necessarily defend, but I will defend. Not necessarily, but you might defend. I will defend where I must do that.
Okay. This is Wafula Goto. He's watching, and he says, "Does a good teacher, a good researcher, know that under General Kayihura in 10 years, Uganda police and other security forces have extrajudicially shot and killed about 100 citizens who were exercising their right to peacefully demonstrate?" Jude, this is for you.
They should bring the case to court.
No, let Jude first respond. I'll come to you. I promised to give you your time.
You see,
we can just come back to you in a moment.
You see, research is one of the most tricky things. And when you're doing research, you know, I'm an ethnographer. I don't go around picking statistics. So I go to police stations, sit there and see what is happening. I go in police operations with officers. I go on drunk driving operations to see how things unfold, see the interactions of how people interact with the police, how people treat the police. By the way, sometimes they even spit on police officers during drunk driving operations. So that particular aspect, it has not come to my attention.
Okay, but
yes.
One of
because
the dangers,
I'm strictly using a methodology that perhaps might not take me to that direction.
Okay, one of the biggest dangers with ethnography,
yes,
is that you might get too attached to your subject of research and get embedded. What they would call in journalism, you get embedded.
Yes,
and therefore your judgment might get biased.
Yeah,
how do you get against that?
Every method has its own merits and demerits.
Okay.
But perhaps to get
yes,
to also since he didn't answer that, if there are 130 people, Ugandan, that have been extrajudicially killed by police, we are today seeing lawyers. We were told the other day there were actually 50 taking it upon themselves genuinely to prosecute an officer who they think is a cause of brutality, not death, brutality. Why haven't those people, this one and any others, come out in defense, in law, in courts of law, against the police for those 130? Why haven't they taken legal action against police in defense of this 130?
I have seen reports.
If they are there.
I have seen reports by Human Rights Watch, for example, the killings on 12th May, the day Besigye returned the swearing in. But we'll talk about that later. I have gotten someone to help with the correction. It's called the Network of Public Interest Lawyers, hosted by Makerere Law School, coordinated by Dr. Chris Mbazira and Miss Patricia Atim. Ona, I suppressed your contribution in the last quarter.
During the moment of electricity, you didn't allow me to charge the situation. But look, I just wanted to say that I think we should not discuss the police and its actions, assuming that our viewers do not understand Uganda or do not know the truth about Uganda. unfortunately, or whatever way you want to look at it, we have a political culture that is perhaps uniquely Ugandan, at least in the context of much of East Africa, which is a fusion of military and politics, which has not started just with the NRM. It's really bedeviled this country since colonial times. And nobody can pretend that the police in this country or the army in this country is devoid of political. In fact, under NRM, this is a political military establishment. And there's no shame about it. It's more like the China of this world, where there's no difference between the party and the military. Some may even argue that even Western countries like the Americans,
Yes.
there's a lot of fusion between military.
Actually, it is so.
And in fact, until a few elections ago, they were always looking at the past war generals for president and what have you. And I see that is very deep in Uganda. General Kayihura is no stranger to Uganda's politics. Long before he became IGP, he was actively involved in the politics of the country in various capacities. In military command.
He was the
political commissar in the UPDF.
But he was also a commissioner on the team that made the constitution.
So I think the debate for the country
yeah.
is at what point do you make that cut, if at all we need it, between the military, the police, and the politics, because it's going to go beyond President Museveni. It's a very deep culture.
Shaban,
So many political actors believe in using force.
Yes, I can.
Can you
Actually,
respond to that?
actually,
And then I'll come to George.
in responding to this one, actually, it's just to augment, to imagine that the UPDF or the Uganda police, okay, and several of these other institutions are going to be apolitical. In fact, the other day I wrote something in the New Vision.
I read your article.
Yes, I was saying that to claim that you can only suppress your partisan interest in an official operation or in the execution of your public duty. You can suppress your partisan interest, but that you're going to be apolitical, that you're politically neutral, you are neither nor. That's not true. That's not possible. So it's not feasible. It doesn't happen.
Do you think in this particular case, just a moment, do you think in this particular case that General Kayihura has failed to sufficiently suppress his partisan interests?
I do not know I do not know what you are choosing General Kari as of now because we have said if a police officer commits an offense, he has a responsibility for personal culpability and accountability to do.
Yes.
Now, you have not yet pointed out, other than saying that, well, he's the general of the police, he's the inspector general, therefore, by extension, so you are trying to extrapolate his culpability from his juniors, which is not right.
Don't you think, Kano Shaban,
Yes.
that if he had accepted, or if he accepts, subject himself to the legal process, then those questions will be answered?
Did you want him to accept to go to court unless and until he has been summoned? Answer the question.
I thought he explained that sufficiently.
Yes,
Charles,
but-
I saw what he did.
That a junior officer
They took the summon, and the officer who received it, according to his story, recorded it in the book where they receive all mail.
But Charles,
after refusing to acknowledge
so-
at the back of the summons.
but
I do not know whether he refused or did not, because we have to get facts. You lady or you man, did you receive a summons? And he says yes. Did you sign on at the back of it? He says no. Why not?
But
he needs to answer that question.
Who answers that?
That person.
Civilians are supposed to demonstrate.
That person.
Charles, I don't want us to lose the very fantastic point that Honor has risen. In my book, actually, if you come across it, I state it very clearly. The interpenetration between military, politics, and society in Uganda. And that actually, it may go much beyond Uganda, okay, as Honor has already pointed out, like in the United States and the rest. But if you have a political police, if you have a political military, you will automatically have a political journalist, you'll have a political clergy.
And we have them.
You'll have a political clergy, you'll have a political students,
Yes.
you'll have political border guys, you'll have political everything.
We have political bishops.
Yes,
There's a message here. There's a message here for Kano Shaban. It says, when the Kano was accused, Kano Shaban went to court and defended himself. He should tell his military colleague, Kale, to do the same.
All of us have said that he will, unless and until he has received the summons. He has not refused.
Does that suggest you've
Charles,
been having a
so
discussion? You've been having discussions with him. So you know exactly where he's standing.
He has said himself that he has not received the summons. So do I have to say that you have and you are refusing?
He hasn't
Charles, on the
spoken
summons.
out. The police has spoken. He hasn't spoken out.
Yes.
Charles, on the summons.
There are two upcoming lawyers. I'm told there's also a major argument that if he appears in court, then he will temporarily or perhaps permanently have to lose his job.
Which the political pharaohs want.
Yes, exactly.
Which is not entirely true because
the politics want that.
No, let's have Ivan come in.
which is not entirely true because the Kale is you know in this context is governed under the Police Act, but the Police Act uses the word may. So the appointing authority may interdict him, and it's not, you know, the difference between may and shall is very important in law. But of course, away from the technicalities, what is true is that General Kayihura is aware he is wanted in court, and indeed, as the Saturday Monitor reported yesterday, quoting Asuman Basalirwa, he's gone a step ahead to send emissaries to try and negotiate with the lawyers. But more importantly, we also saw 3 stage-managed young people addressing the press, claiming that been bribed by Lukwago and all these other lawyers. I mean, you can clearly see this was drama. People with bruises, claiming they've been paid.
Authenticate it.
People with bruises coming to claim to the media they've been paid to come and claim they've been beaten is incredible. So clearly, the underground movements that the IGP is making to try and diffuse the tensions are bubbling out in the public. And those in the know simply look at him denying the fact that he's received summons as mere political posturing. But I think for Shaban and maybe Jod, who are close to the IGP, it's, I think, important to advise him that he's only human and with limitations. When Sam Kutesa, who perhaps is one of the most powerful men in this country, alongside Dina Sasira, alongside Musu Garukutana, were accused of corruption. They actually humbly stepped aside and subjected themselves to the process of law. At the beginning of the show, I said the president of this country has time and time again subjected himself to the process of law, to the extent of even swearing affidavits, to the extent of receiving
commissions of inquiry.
Yes. We saw, you know, that front page photograph of Severino Tunobusinge and Michael Comprera on this side and his team of lawyers, you know, serving him. Yes, at the heat of the presidential election petition. So if the president, if the Sam Kutesas of this country can subject themselves to the process of law, I think it's only human and civil and gentle of the IGP to subject himself to the process of law. But even then, if he didn't want to, I think at the strategy level, the challenge also is the IGP, especially if you read what's been published in the papers, is surrounding himself with a bunch of, and using actually a bunch of hoodlums. You see, the other day, the Daily Monitor had a cover. The other day, the Daily Monitor had a cover. The Daily Monitor had a cover titled "Unmasked," or rather identified, and we had goons, to use the Daily Monitor word, goons that run the heart of operations in police. And it's not public, and it's not a secret. So I think the IGP needs to take a back step and reflect on some of these things.
He must be watching this show because
I think it's important for people like
they'll be writing a brief.
Gentlemen,
They'll be writing a brief for him.
To give him guidance. Because, Charles, even if I was him and
the analogy between, comparing him and the ministers and even the president, I think what is also critical at this point is the IGP is seen as representing the president, at least by the opponents of the president. And I think it's a question of who will blink first. If you were to fall out of this pressure, then naturally in politics, the next target is the president. Okay. So there's also that politics.
Oh, no, that's the question I wanted to come to. Politically, how does President Museveni deal with the current Kayihura problem?
Well, I think the president will try to, if you consider it a storm, ride the storm. And fortunately, Ugandans are always good people. They tend to move on. There's a good chance that they will move on.
He still has 4 years on his current contract because it was only renewed last year. He still has about 4 years on.
Yeah, but of course, as Jude was trying to talk about the Mbara operation, maybe it will also be at the same time toning down by the police. Unfortunately, Kizza Besigye also seems to have also doing his things more quietly. So that is.
I want to run that question around the table, and then we'll come. I am told that during the campaign period, people who were putting together the campaign for the president demanded and begged for one thing: Kayihura should keep out of the media for the period of this election. And now, with those posters of Kayihura for 2021-2026, from what I know, that some people have said that is like the proverbial putting your finger behind something that some person talked about.
A good way of showing that the age limit clamor is not there.
But you know that goes also with some briefs. If he has powerful enemies within the system itself, then you can't blame it on Besigye alone. They don't write briefs. Jude, politically, this is clear damaging to the president, especially if they say Kayihura is acting the way he's acting because he has the backing of the president. So how does the president deal with this from a political perspective?
Well, I'm not in the mind of the president, but if I may take a wild guess, I think this Inspector General has served the country very well, in my perspective, and what I've been seeing. And I've seen some of the plans that actually never come to the media. I've seen some of the things that the police does. I've seen the strategic plans. You see, it's a clear direction that the police is actually growing, modernizing, professionalizing, etc. Now, what happens is that when we are clouded with these political discussions, we lose the fantastic things that are going on behind the scenes. And there are quite a number.
Okay. I don't want to disagree with you, but there are people within police, especially the traditional police trained officers, who believe the bringing in of 2 military generals, and especially under General Kayihura, that traditional professional police has been shoved on the side, and or either military or quasi-military people have taken over.
Well, I've heard stories.
I want to take some phone calls. I know there are many people on the line, but Jude, I'm afraid I need to cut you because I need to run the question around the table. Politically, how does the president deal with this?
The president has, in the past, taken action against errant officers or those that thinks are a public relations disaster. He did put his own brother Salim Saleh aside and accused them of drunkenness and to use the
Kayihura is a teetotaler.
In the words of, but at least you could clearly say he took action against his own brother. I think there comes a time when you have to deal with excess baggage. But of course, he's not known to respond to pressure from opposition and the cluttering masses on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you.
So he will most likely take his time and allow his contract to expire and
position him somewhere else. Shaban, politically, you are the one supposed to be doing damage control for the government. So politically, this doesn't look good. How is it going to be dealt with?
First of all, the question of political damage being done, that's not a common view. That's a perspective and a perception of a few of you, which is all right. And to that effect, therefore, the president is not under pressure to take any political action, okay, against somebody who, those of you who are baying for the blood of General Kari, okay.
I'm only asking a question. I'm not baying for his blood, so don't accuse me of baying for his blood.
No, I'm asking questions. You are not unrelated to them. That's so the president. First of all, this president we have is a president who takes his time. He is never under pressure by anyone, and so he's like most of us do. He's seeing political activists targeting General Kari as a person, okay? They are not even targeting him as an IGP. And like Ona said correctly, if you are those who are targeting Kari are simply trying to cut the roots, so that later on they can come to the trunk. If they bring General Kari down, then you can be sure the next step will be, Your Excellency, after your IGP did the following and the following, do you have reason to stay as the president of this country? That's their...
Well, that is looking at it from one perspective.
Yes,
and that shows
that's how they want to move.
Because when the tree has been cut, sometimes new shoots emerge. And from what we are hearing, new power centers are emerging. And the internal enemies
Yeah, just that's. I think there you can appreciate the president's dilemma. Sometimes you tend to think that there is an endless stream of people who are as dedicated as Kale, but maybe they are getting depleted. Especially there are a lot of people now who are president called career-minded, maybe money-minded, and Kale seems to be quite mission-oriented.
I don't want to disrespect my viewers, so let me take at least 2 or 3 phone calls. Can I have do I have a call online? Yes, hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from? Keep your question or comment brief.
Yeah, this is Michael calling from Busheji.
Yes, Michael. Go ahead.
I would like to thank the participants. My question is to Ivan.
Yes.
That when you put the context of politics and don't put the context of the participants, you realize that you put away the evidence of what happened before BSA came out of prison. The police were not brutalizing people. So I think the cause of the root and the root of all these things is because BSA is allowed to participate in all these events without people realizing that it is because of that why all these things are going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. We'll have Ivan respond to that. Do we have another call online? Yes, hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from? Pardon?
This is Joshua.
I can't hear you. Let's pick another caller. Hello? 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 I think we've lost that one. If you're calling us, please reduce the volume on your TV set, or you'll still be heard even if you're not listening to yourself. Yes. Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes, your name, sir, and where you're calling from?
Wycliffe from Chidaka.
The name again?
Wycliffe from Chidaka.
Wycliffe from Chidaka, yes, please. Go ahead.
Now, obviously, you guys, the way that it's coming, you kind of seem like Ugandans don't understand what's going on. When I hear Saban Bata and the Indian,
Please turn down the volume on your TV set because we're getting an echo in studio. Yes, Wycliffe, go ahead then.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
I was saying, when I hear discussion,
Yes.
it kind of feels like Ugandans are taking to think like we really don't understand what's going on. We really have eyes, we see what's going on, and we know what the police is doing. Kayihura is outrightly showing every day his movement, his what exactly he's doing. So you don't have to be a physician to understand it. So for me, I think
Wycliffe, you really have the line is really bad. I'm afraid we're going to lose you. But I think we get the gist of your question. Shaban will respond to that. Hello, we have another caller.
Are you sure it was me?
I think so. He said when he is...
You rephrase it.
Hello? Do you have another caller? Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is
I can't hear you well.
Yeah.
Please switch off, turn down the volume on your TV set. Or walk away from the TV. Hello? Hello?
To rain the heavy
Hello?
today.
Oof, we're having difficulty with the phone call. So we're going to have to make do with Michael and Wycliffe. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Daniel calling from Entebbe.
From Entebbe?
I'm asking.
Yes.
I want to ask Mr. Shabanda.
Go on.
No. That is the first question. The second question. If basically supporters had done the same on Wednesday, would the police overlook they overlooked the Kayihura supporter. Thank you.
I think we want to get your second question, a bit of it. The first question we didn't get, and your name we also didn't get. He's gone off. Yes, let's just pick one last one because we have lost so many. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'm Henry calling from Chwatule.
Yes, Henry, go ahead.
Thank you for the program.
Yes, please. Thank
The
you.
point I want to make, and I want to pick from the submissions from Kano Shaban.
Yes.
You know, there's some things he has been saying, and somehow he contradicts himself. Because if you stretch back, there are things which the police has been doing, but sometimes the public can keep quiet. Yeah, they say, yes, you have made a mistake, but maybe you are doing some things which are okay. But if you look at the events which happened recently, the public watched. There are people who were standing on the roadside and were being battered by the police when they are not rioting, just watching Besigye pass. So you cannot divert the public and say it is because Besigye is out of jail, is the one causing all this mayhem. No. The people can be able to watch and judge. We have seen videos, we've seen where police really brutalizes people who are innocent, who are just standing by. So these things cannot be kept away from the eye of the public. We can see.
But Henry,
yeah,
if you remember, Jude and Shaban also talked about the incident in Mbarara when
Yes.
Besigye was going to Kabale.
yes.
Yes, and they said that was handled professionally. There was no major incident. Actually, police restrained itself against attack.
Even cover.
But just like Ivan's submission, this was after something has happened. You cannot take away, you cannot say someone has committed a crime, now he's doing something good, then we forget the crime.
Okay, thank you. I think you make your point there. Let me just ask my producer to allow me one last caller because we lost so many. Hello? Yes, please?
Hello?
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Mitoma.
Your name, sir?
I'm Mohanji Wilberforce.
Yes, Mahanji.
Now, I want to comment and thank Mr. Shabbatariza because you cannot blame General Kayihura on this brutality of these individuals that was in Karerwe. Those people should be charged because I think Kayihura represents police, but he represent individual fault.
Yes.
So therefore, I think they should hunt them because I think in police there is even hooliganism. They should hunt them and charge them. They leave general alone.
Okay. I thought that should be resolved by the court or where it's been taken.
No, he's giving an opinion.
Yes, I also said I thought. Thank you very much, Wilbur, and I think Wilbur will be our last caller. Let's bring this discussion back into studio, starting with Ivan to respond to Michael from Bushenyi.
Yes, Michael from Bushenyi, thank you for watching the show. My response is, I think it's possible to manage the political contestation in this country and remain civil, respectful of human rights, and obey the letter and spirit of the laws so established by Parliament. The evidence is overwhelming that when police has left Dr. Besigye and his supporters to walk free and not bring the excitement of tear gas and baton charge and all these other things, there's actually no chaos. So the high-handedness of the police is actually the cause of most of the anarchy that we see on the streets. But of course, I also sympathize with General Kayihura because he, first of all, had a baptism of fire. In November, when he was appointed, his appointment coincided with the return of Dr. Kizza Besigye from South Africa in exile. And Dr. Besigye has been a very significant actor in his policing career. I think in his autobiography or biography will have a very big chunk of Besigye has largely defined
his career as a police officer, as a head of police.
The way Morgan Shivangai would for the IGP in Zimbabwe or Raila Odinga
Actually,
in Kenya,
General Kayihura was appointed on November 15th,
Yes.
2005. Besigye was arrested on November 14th. And General Kayihura's first assignment
Yes.
was to quell a riot at Makerere University, and one of the policemen fired a tear gas canister that landed right at where he was.
Yeah, so
I'm afraid we've overshot our time, so we need
Yes.
to bring this to an end. Colonel Shaban, most of the questions actually came, some of the comments came to you. And there are two people who are saying, we see, people know, people see these things happening, so they're not coming out of the blue, especially Wycliffe in Kireka and Henry in Chiwatule. How do you respond?
Let me first make this point clear.
And you can also respond to Wilberforce, who was supporting you from Mitoma.
None of us in government or outside supports any police officer or any government officer, okay, really brutalizing a citizen. Nobody supports that. And I think that's the reason, the very reason why when some of those officers in Karerwe and Sabara acted beyond their mandate have been taken to a police tribunal, and that's correct.
Well, there are still suspects in that respect as well, so we need to give them the benefit of the doubt until the tribunal passes its verdict.
We are speaking like laymen that we saw so and so, beat so and so. We do not know how much force he was allowed to use that day, but the police who know better have now taken him to a tribunal, and we applaud that, and we must support that. Okay. However, what we do not support, like Wilbur was saying here, and like the Police Act says as well, the police standing orders say as well, and their procedures of, because the reason why a deploying officer writes down the orders, because you have sometimes been hearing of orders from above. Those orders from above is many times a decoy, as my brother Kagoro was saying. The orders have been written out, and when you, an operator, make a mistake, you answer for it. And if you plead that you have made the mistake because of the order, then they go back to the orders and they are written. So those who actually want to charge General Kari, I'm not even sure that those who even wrote those orders should look at those orders first and say, yes, the orders you wrote for that operation where your police officers brutalized people are yours.
Thank you. I need to stop you there, but I thought exactly Netpil is looking for that Kayihura goes, subjects himself to the process of the law and says, these were not my orders, so I am not responsible.
That will make everybody take Kayihura to jail, I mean to court every day to answer for everything that every policeman does. So you are supporting
the defiance of the court process?
The defiance is yours, not ours.
Yes.
We were not the defiance.
For me, the big issue here arising out of the beating of the people, and then even now the attack on the court, is really some work for Dr. Jude and his team. The police, I think, rightly had run out of options for dealing with Kizza Besigye. And that's why they kept on changing, going from ordinary batons to sticks, from tear gas to sticks. And I think even the mobilizing of civilians to defend the IGP is part of looking for a winning strategy. So police really needs to continue working on how best to contain Kizza Besigye.
Thank you. Jude, your last word in about 30 seconds. We need to get out of here.
Well, my last word is, I think what the general Kale know is a law-abiding citizen. And I don't think he can defy. That is what I can say. And I know he's a very passionate officer who has been appealing to so many of his juniors to maintain professional standards. And he has been very keen on developing the police. And we are seeing, yes, and we're seeing it moving forward.
Thank you very much. I understand that General Kayihura actually continued to work almost normally over the last week. He's been with these Algerians and they're signing things they're supposed to be doing together, and he's been doing the other work. Our time is out. We've extremely overshot our time. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making time for the show. Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us tonight and always, and thank you very much to the production team that stays out this late to deliver the show to you. From me, it's a good night.